Roofing's TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend surfaces. Roofing's strength of a nation.
If you look at all sectors, energy has an influence.
Now, how do we build a model that is sustainable? We're making good investments and we're growing the sector.
Our record under UEP had not been that very good.
World Bank Group has been involved in Uganda electricity sector since the mid-2000s, where it has supported the government in very bold reform.
The last 15 years, we focused on the parameters that were set in our concession that was negotiated at the time. It took the best minds of Uganda to work on it and also the best minds internationally, because they had to plan for 20 years ahead.
As remember, we have innovated over the period. We've rolled out cashless. We introduced payment metering, Yaka. As I speak now, the 1.5 million customers are all on Yaka.
The transition has been very, very good, because Ugandans who enjoy the power went out and bought shares.
UMEME's massive investment, a robust and functional distribution network that will impact the lives of Uganda's over 40 million citizens.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
day of November 2021 is also a day where we do or take accountability of what we've been able to do, because the month has actually gone far closer to the end of it. The evaluations of the things that you did seek to do, have you been able to do them? Or probably you're still limping and forecasting that you will do the same in the next month. My name is Felix Nkunda. It is Good Morning Uganda, and it is another opportunity for us to also give, give chance to newness, to, of course, everything that can start with this week. The expectations are high, definitely, as we fast track towards the end of the year. We just probably a sneak into the month of celebrations, what we also call the festive month. Some places have already started celebrating the festive season. Clearly, the question is, how far have you gone with the preparations for the festive season? What will you do? What do you expect to do? Are you going to be traveling? Are you worried? Are you still home? Is it the issue of cash? I mean, just to mention but a few. So many things that are happening. Of course, also the questions about the Nsenene. But far from that, back home here at Good Morning Uganda, we have Molen Kenyana is back in action. The question is where she has been, but anyway, Molen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you. I am happy to be back, and of course I want to extend a good morning to you and all the viewers for Good Morning Uganda. Well, I am back. Once in a while it's good to take a little bit of holiday off and you know, refresh. How's that a song from Kenzo? It says, you refresh and get back. And of course, we are with you, taking you through the Christmas festivals are already here. So we'll be taking more into that. I am here for the long run. Yes.
Well, of course, we're happy to have you back. I guess it's been quite a roller coaster for you with whatever you've been doing, but it's nevertheless good for us to have you back. And of course, on the other side, I have the man himself, Uncle Robert Kirabo. How are you, Robert?
I'm very, very fine. Happy to see Sister Molen back with us. And of course, it is a new week. We have 7 days for you to relight what was your failure or what were your failures the previous week. So here we are, it's a new week. All you need is a positive mindset. And of course, with prayer as well, hard work, and then the sky is the limit. 7 days, there's so much you can do in 7 days. But also equally, if you have a negative mindset, negative attitude, there's still so much that can still fail to achieve. So here we are, it is a new week, Christmas is just around the corner. Very importantly also to note is from police, a man who is so much interested and follows up issues of crime. They are telling you this is the most risky part of the year. Criminality is very high. Whenever we hit, as we approach December, people are looking for Christmas in your pockets, in your home, wherever. So be on alert, be on high alert. Mind your movements, mind how you protect your assets and your life as well.
Well, of course, many things are happening in the country, but as Robert did say, keep on your feet. I mean, stay alert. And of course, vigilance is the only way we're going to get through this whole situation. Clearly, you notice that there's a lot of laxity already back in town. When you move around places, people have stopped checking cars, have stopped checking people in arcades. We stand to risk our lives. I don't know why we forget so easily, Ugandans. But as a matter of fact, you are your own personal security. So it's important. But of course, there's been also some other scares about another variant of COVID-19. Oh my God. That and much is what we'll be giving you in our updates. But of course, Priscilla will be joining us. We'll be back on the team. She's not doing very well this morning, but she will be joining us as soon as she gets back on her feet. But of course, also we want to take you through some of the stories that have been trending, and that's since Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And of course, later on, take you through the stories that are trending internationally. But Uncle Bob will do us the pleasure to take us through the local stories, and Will and Molen will take you through the international stories.
And we'll begin with the Kabaka birthday run that happened yesterday, where it was held under strict reservations because of COVID-19, where a number turned up in various parts of the country to be part of this run, where the funds, all that was collected, will go into the fight against HIV/AIDS. Hundreds of people participated in the Kabaka's Run, commonly known as the Kabaka Birthday Run. The main run was in Kabaka's Palace in Mengo, and the Kabaka of Buganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi II, presided over the flagging off of the runners. This year's run was organized under the theme Men Against HIV/AIDS to Save a Girl Child. Hundreds of people participated in Sunday's Kabaka Birthday Run, where the Kabaka of Buganda was celebrating his 66th birthday. At Lubiri Palace, where several people gathered, entrance was restricted to invited guests only to avoid crowds. It was joy when the Kabaka of Buganda and his entourage arrived at the function. The Katikkiro of Buganda, Charles Peter Mayiga, said Kabaka's Run has been focused on the fight against HIV/AIDS for the last 2 years. He said Buganda will have kicked HIV/AIDS out of the kingdom by 2030. He appealed to men to be in the forefront of the fight against HIV/AIDS. Buganda Kingdom Sports Minister Moses Sekabembe Chiberu appreciated the youth for their effort in the fight against HIV/AIDS and advised them to test and know their status. Remi Chisache from Airtel Uganda, one of the major funders, appreciated the Kabaka for accepting that they participate in the Kabaka's Run. Some youth that participated in the run advised their colleagues to be more conscious and prevent ways of contracting HIV/AIDS. Residents of Kakoro and Maisaza sub-counties in Butembo district are counting losses after a hailstone devastated the area. Leaders have partly blamed this on low tree cover, poor building and housing planning, as a situation residents say is caused by financial inabilities. Now the woman member of parliament, Butembo district, Agnes Amende, wants government to rescue affected families from further disaster. It is a storm that considered no age, listened to no economic situation, and insisted came with fierce force that left no stone unturned. In the aftermath, affected people are now trying to reorganize what was destroyed, including their house belongings, as one Godfrey Makanika, a resident of Maiza village in Kikube district, said to be this is the third time it is collapsing. Something, he says, has brought him a lot of economic suffering. Makanika may have been lucky at least to see his house still standing despite the roof having been damaged. The case is no different from that of 40-year-old Gertrude Byakita, a widow whose husband passed on in 2016. Now they are calling upon government to come to their rescue and ensure they have decent housings and the impact of the storm is reduced. Away from that, we now move to the oil pipeline, where President Yoweri Museveni and his host, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, agreed on various key strategic projects that will deepen cooperation in trade and development. Notable among which is the East African Crude Oil Pipe project that will not only see oil flow downstream from the Albertine region and in future from Kadama in Karamoja, DRC Congo and South Sudan, but will also see gas flow from the coastal region in Tanzanian upstream to the continent in highlands. President Museveni said the proposal to have the pipelines made here to benefit the people was abandoned following complaints that it would delay the project. And finally, on the local scene, Uganda and Tanzania have committed to expedite the oil and gas project for early achievement of poverty eradication and creation of lasting value to the society. This was at the just concluded Tanzania-Uganda Oil and Gas Symposium in Tanzania's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. The presence of both heads of state for Tanzania and Uganda at the Oil and Gas Symposium in Dar es Salaam is a show of seeks to build confidence and a show of solidarity in the pursuance of oil and gas production. Their sentiments are re-echoed by the ministers of minerals and energy of Tanzania and Uganda. Addressing legal and policy matters that govern the industry are cited among critical factors in attracting investment and fostering capital-intensive activities in midstream and downstream phases. With more than $30 billion expected to be invested in the oil and gas project within the next 5 years, the issue of financing and joint venture across border collaboration could not be overemphasized. The Tanzanian-Uganda Oil and Gas Symposium, organized by the Tanzania and Uganda private sector and coordinated by the Uganda's Commission in Tanzania, offered participants platforms to network, understand industry opportunities and challenges, and showcase their capacities through experience sharing.
Apart from that, we will now cross over into our international stories, and our first story will be looking at Canada. While we see Canada said Sunday it has detected its first cases of the new Omicron strain of COVID in 2 people who had traveled recently to Nigeria. Both patients are in isolation while public health authorities trace their possible contacts and said federal and Ontario provincial officials. Was confirmed today by the Public Health Agency of Canada. The testing and monitoring of COVID-19 cases has confirmed 2 cases of Omicron variant concerns on Ontario. Now, Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos said in a statement, as the monitoring and testing continues, he added it is expected that other cases of this variant will be found in Canada. The government of Ontario confirmed that these 2 cases are in the capital of Ottawa. Now, US and Iran seek to break impasse as talks on reviving nuclear deal. Critical talks with Iran to prevent the collapse of the nuclear deal are to resume in Vienna. After 5 months, officials will discuss the possible returns of the US to the 2015 accord, which limited Iran's nuclear activities in return for the lifting of the sanctions. Iran has violated key commitments since then. President Donald Trump pulled out of 2018 and reinstated U.S. sanctions. Joe Biden is willing to lift them if Iran reverses the breaches. But it wants the U.S. to make the first move, and the Western diplomats have warned that time is running out to negotiate a solution because of the significant advances Iran has made in the uranium enrichment program, which is a possible pathway to nuclear bombs. Well, in South Africa, the president has condemned travel bans enacted against his country and its neighbors over the new coronavirus variant of Omicron. Now, Cyril Ramaphosa said he was deeply disappointed by the action, which he described as unjustified, and called for the bans to be urgently lifted. The UK, EU and US are among those who had imposed travel bans. Now, Omicron has been classed as a variant of concern. Early evidence suggested it has a higher reinfection risk, and heavily mutated variant was detected in South Africa earlier this month and then reported to the World Health Organization last Wednesday. Now, the variant is responsible for most of the infections found in South Africa's most populated province, that is Gauteng, over the last 2 weeks, and is now present in all other provinces in the country. The World Health Organization has warned against countries hastily imposing travel restrictions, saying they should look to a risk-based scientific approach than just bans.
While we look at the Arctic Ocean started getting warmer decades earlier than people thought. Now, the Arctic Ocean has been getting warmer since the beginning of the 20th century, decades earlier than the records suggest, due to warmer water flowing into the delicate polar ecosystem from the Atlantic Ocean. An international group of researchers reconstructed the recent history of ocean warming at the gateway to the Arctic Ocean in the region called Fram Strait between Greenland and Svalbard. Now, using the chemical signature found in marine microorganisms, the researchers found that the Arctic Ocean began warming rapidly at the beginning of the last century as warmer and saltier waters flowed in from the Atlantic Ocean, a phenomenon called Atlantification. And this has changed likely preceded the warming documented by modern instruments. Well, since 1900, the ocean temperature has risen by approximately 2 degrees Celsius, while sea ice has retreated and salinity has increased. Now, the result reported in the journal Science Advances provides the first historical perspective on Atlantification of the Arctic Ocean and reveals a connection with the Northern Atlantic that is much stronger than previously reported. Well, the connection is capable of shaping the Arctic climate variability, which could have important implications for the sea ice retreat and global sea level rise as the polar ice sheets continue to melt.
Well, having looked at our local stories and later on what we've been giving you in our most recent international stories, they're quite a depiction of many things that are happening, and among them is the variant, the Micron variant. Of course, countries have been put on a spot, South Africa, Nigeria, basically some African countries. So that means that we must continue with taking care of ourselves. Now we must continue by abiding by the standard operating procedures, keep distances, don't forget to put on your masks. For some of you who have not yet been vaccinated, please make it an issue. Today we have enough Medicare vaccinations, at least we have very many points where you can be vaccinated. And the beauty of the same is that we have quite different vaccines that can be used to vaccinate you. So please take care and make sure you stay away from crowds, avoid hugs, because you don't know where the people have been. Well, of course, also looked at local stories. For some of you who were able to be a part of the Kabaka's run yesterday, I guess it was wonderful seeing the king in shape again. It was quite marvelous for some of us. It made us, well, I know most of the people in Uganda now have a good saint towards the kingdom, which was not the case previously. And Robert clearly is also holding on to some bottles. Yes, Robert.
Definitely. This is Hallelujah Tamarind and Hallelujah Ginger to drink. This is what we advise you every morning here on Good Morning Uganda. Please just go to the nearest supermarket, nearest retail shop and get yourself one. What these do actually is they boost your immune system. Things that are hard for you to have at the same time, combine them and consume them to help your body fight diseases have been condensed in these bottles. So do not compromise anything when it comes to boosting your immune system. We're at a time when all that the body needs is a strong immune system in addition to vaccination and also what you take. So ensure you take what is relevant, important and healthy for you. And above all, these have been certified by the Uganda National Bureau of Standards, so they are safe to consume.
And of course, we would want to also share with you and you share with us your opinion about some of the matters that do concern our country. And that's through our poll question. And our poll question today is with a call for world transit from fossil fuel to clean energy. What is in store for the Uganda-Tanzania oil business? With a call for the world transit from fossil fuels to clean energy, what is in store for the Uganda-Tanzanian oil business? Of course, this is quite significant and most relevant to the times where we see Uganda and Tanzania are trying to have a very nice relation in terms of how they can deal away with these kind of fossil fuels. But of course, be able to hit social media, this hashtag UBCGMU, that's on Twitter, but also on our WhatsApp, be able to leave us a message in response to our poll question. And our WhatsApp number is 0709 60 25 92. Well, of course, right now, we want to take a break, have a song for the day, but when we come back, we'll be looking at our newsreel, where we'll be discussing something quite important in terms of the AP growth of tourism, and not only in Uganda this time round, but on the East African spectrum. But of course, much later on, Molen will be giving us updates in weather and of course, which we've been missing most recent. I don't know what we expect from you, Molen, then.
Yeah, and it comes at a time when we're looking at much of the world warming, and there is a new research from NASA which has made a conclusion about the analysis of 2020. This has tied with 2016 in terms of being the hottest years on record, and that is since 1880. And also what is interesting is that 19 of the warmest years have happened beyond 1990. So that means that we're only getting warmer and warmer. So we'll be looking more into that. And I think I'm also concerned about this oil, clean energy issue. I don't know how far the prices of oil have gone right now. And it seems like it continues to you know, go up. But that a lot of that is connected to the fact that we're trying to phase out fossil fuels.
Well,
and this is globally.
Molly, and for us, the notice to ban people from going into nightclubs was sent when, for us, we're already in there. So for those that are not yet, but for us who have already entered the nightclub, who are already here, let's enjoy our dance. We can't afford to miss out. So those that have the notice, they are free not to enter the nightclub because the ban affects them. But for us who are already there, we cannot leave any opportunity to benefit from this.
I think this is what Felix was saying. Ugandans move on quickly from things.
But of course, even during the COP26, you followed how these key beneficiaries, you know, I find it very funny when you try to oppress some other countries. Look at coal, where the biggest users. Did they come up with anything meaningful?
China, USA.
Yes, did they come up with anything meaningful?
But guess what? China did actually cut the production of coal, but it's also interesting that when the prices started going up and the demand was high, they again went back to the same thing.
So why would we as East African countries that are seeing an opportunity gear to global, yet the big people, the most damagers, why it's for their financial benefits, they're not.
Yeah, but we can also think about clean energy. While we, yes, we appreciate the oil business and we're new at this, but we can also look into how much can we put aside to go for clean energy. I mean, we are living around the sun. We do have a lot of resources. So while we focus on that, why can't we also venture into getting much of that energy, the solar energy, the wind energy? Why don't we have it to a percentage and be excited about it the same way we're getting excited about the oil? Yes.
We could have a long day with such discussions, but now that Molen is back here, I guess we expect a deeper analysis into this whole things of weather, nature, clean, unclean, what. But of course, also, Robert later on will be hosting a guest, and Robert will be looking at what exactly today?
Today I want to look at an in-depth of NSSF Amendment Bill 2021, which was passed by Parliament just last week. An excitement, but what is more, what is the content, and is there a need to be excited? So more regarding that, we'll be having Asha Wilson-Owero, who is the Secretary General of the union that brings together all trade unions in Uganda, or workers unions, and we'll be discussing more regarding that.
Well, of course, much of that is what we'll be giving you ahead of our program. But let's take a break. We give you a song for the day, intending to motivate you, to lift your spirits. Being a Monday, some people call it, well, Monday blues and all this. This song will lift your spirits into the week, and we hope and pray that it does put you in shape to wake up and go hit the day. Good morning.
Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Tulantende ku program obulamu bwo.
was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Transact and win money after money with Airtel Money. 1.5 billion shillings in cash prizes up for grabs. The more you transact, the higher your chances of winning. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
If you look at all sectors, energy has an influence.
Now, how do we build a model that is sustainable? We're making good investments and we're growing the sector.
Our record under UEP had not been that very good.
World Bank Group has been involved in Uganda electricity sector since the mid-2000s, where it has supported the government in very bold reform.
The last 15 years, we focused on the parameters that were set in our concession that was negotiated at the time. It took the best minds of Uganda to work on it and also the best minds internationally because they had to plan for 20 years ahead.
As remember, we have innovated over the period. We've rolled out cashless. We introduced payment metering, Yaka. As I speak now, the 1.5 million customers are all on Yaka.
The transition has been very, very good because Ugandans who enjoy the power went out and bought shares.
Umeme's massive investment, a robust and functional distribution network that will impact the lives of Uganda's over 40 million citizens.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
At exactly 6 minutes past the top of the hour, welcome to the 7th hour, and of course this is Good Morning Uganda. Well, COVID-19 brought in a lot of challenges and hit a number of sectors, and one of the sectors that was greatly hit was the tourism sector, where East Africa, the 6 partner states made a great loss because they were receiving annually about 7 million tourists, but as we speak the number is reduced to 2.5. Yet this is a very crucial sector in terms of earning for the East African community. In terms of cash, the East African member states receive about 92% of their monies from tourism sector. When we look at employment, the tourism sector employs 7% of the people in these East African states. But also go to exports. 17% of the exports we export as East African countries is dependent on the tourism sector. Come to our GDP. Tourism contributes 10% of our GDP, and this is why the Secretary General of the East African Community, Dr. Peter Mathuki, came up and launched the Tembea Nyumbani, which is aimed at ensuring that they promote tourism, more so this festive season, and this is going to start on the 1st of December, to ensure that by the end of this year, at least, they have been able to attract 4 million tourists And this is inter-regional, meaning member states, people from Uganda to Kenya, from Kenya to Tanzania, to Rwanda, and all that. And this is what we want to look at this morning with Felix Nkunda, the possibility of achieving this, and of course, how best we can hope out of the diverse effects that COVID-19 caused on this sector. Felix, having known how important it is, now we are looking at it not at country level, but as a block. How best we can promote this sector that plays a vital role in terms of our economy, in terms of the produce, and of course, finally, that has even seen great imports leave this country or these countries to go overseas.
Well, of course, it's a nice and beautiful move by the
Secretary General,
the IALA, emanating from such an epitome organization or institute of the East African community. But in this discussion, and I was listening to the statements of the SG, and of course they pushed me to think that you'll see, in as much as it's a good one, it may not necessarily depict what can be done. It may come with goodwill, but the challenges of an East African decision that is centered, say, from an institution like IALA or even any other. The worries, there are many worries that surround such a proposal, and I can give you many of them. As a matter of fact, before even I go to the challenges, as a matter of fact, it's a good move, and it is doable. But the question is, how is it doable, if you want to discuss it from that angle? One, you look at a country, at least now, countries that have their own aircrafts, at least almost all of them, from Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, I don't know, not sure, South Sudan, not very sure. And it means that from that angle of connections, it's possible. You look at the road networks, that from all these borders, there's a connection point. However, we have a challenge from Uganda to Tanzania. Away from the Mutukula border, we miss a very nice entry point. You know, as you see, like Uganda, Busia, Kenya, Busia, Kenya, Uganda, Busia, or Rwanda, you know, or Sudan, Elegu, and what. So these are things that we must think of before we get into. So it is possible, and there are many things that can make it possible. Now you're talking about the East African passport, which we are fast tracking. At least I saw Uganda has tried so much. I don't know much about Kenya, Tanzania, and the other countries, the Rwandas of this world, but at least we know for a fact that as a country, we are fast tracking to such. When you start talking about intensifying regional growth, and in any aspect, doesn't have to be tourism per se, you must deal with the most core aspects that work as catalysts towards that you seek to have. For example, if I saw the Honorable Kadaga some time back launch the free entry, I think between Sudan and Uganda. How is it in relation to other countries? Because if you want to intensify or to promote the growth of tourism, you must also be able to deal with what you call the technical challenges on ground, the barriers on ground. For example, accessibility, okay? The connectivity between these other countries, how have you dealt with it? That is very key. But thirdly also, you see, we must deal with what you call, people fear to discuss it, but it's a matter of fact, the political tensions. Between you and me, how long has the Rwanda border been closed by the Rwandan officials, if I may add?
2 years almost plus.
It's more than that.
Plus, yes.
It was far before the COVID-19.
Yes.
So it's coming to about 3-4 years. Now, how do you talk about intensifying or improving tourism with that kind of relationship? Political tensions. You get the point? We have had issues. Remember South Sudan issue when they are killing Ugandan bus truck drivers? Those are also tourists, business tourists. Because I believe that when they go to South Sudan, probably some of them who are able, they can move around.
Well, of course, definitely.
They sleep in hotels, they spend. So that is part of tourism. If you do not deal with those barriers, whatever you're saying is as good as useless. And even if you're going to invite, and you see, this informs the reduction in number of the people who are coming to this region. It may not be directly related to, even if it is indirect, it has an impact. If you've had a 7-point-something million people visiting the region, and today you're talking about 2, for example, you must cause true assessment. What could have gone wrong? Yes, COVID. The effect of COVID is not, was not far prolonged because once the countries were opened...
Well, Dr. Peter looks at one of the things that have come out, the COVID restrictions, as they say now, they want to come up with one center, that if a person tests in one country, we avoid these more costs again. Because here they are looking more at inter-regional countries, and they're looking at
is it as a matter of policy, a matter of legislation, or a matter of practice?
It's going to be, I think, a matter of practice, because
they have
instructed the various tourism boards in the 6 member states to ensure they move for this. That when a Felix Nkunda comes from Uganda, he's treated not like a foreigner from Uganda, but he's treated like a Kenyan in Uganda. What do we mean? That there are all barriers that have been there. That maybe you go to a hotel and because you're not a Kenyan, if you've gone to Kenya, so you're paying maybe in dollars, paying those extra costs. Now, when you move in any of these regions, it is uniformity.
Robert, have you noticed that East African members are considered as international guests?
And this is what they aim to eliminate at such a time.
But you know why I was asking the issue, that is it a matter of policy, a matter of law, or a matter of sought practice? Because then that would inform how binding, in whatever category it falls. Was it a resolution passed by YADA? Was it at the level of the secretary? Where? What is the implementation process of such? They're very good. And by the way, we needed this as far as early as the other day. We needed such, but the biggest challenge of the East African community, in particular, I want to talk about other blocks, has been the failure to stand with authority in terms of implementing. Look at the treaty. Look at the various protocols up till today. If it is not possible for you, Kirabo, to cross from Uganda to Kenya without, how will it be possible? You remember this yellow fever thing? It had become a problem for us. Some of them were rejected. That is one. Secondly, look at the free access. Can you just move from Uganda to Tanzania? Have we even gone to that point?
And get employment the way you want?
That is the thing. So if you're talking about
East Africa, Felix, you bring in a very important issue that I want us to give more time discussing, is that most of the implementation process seems to be failing when it comes to many of these treaties. It's more like colleagues meeting for a cup of tea and coming up with resolutions that they don't abide by.
It may not necessarily be...
Because let's look at the pillars of the protocol. In the beginning, where we had free movement of goods, people as well. All of these today, you find that there are some countries where you can cross with your national ID, but there are other countries you can't within East Africa.
If you've been to Europe, you notice the true meaning of an integrated community. True meaning. All you need, that's why if you've, any of our viewers, probably even yourself, Robert, if you've ever gotten a visa to Europe, it has Schengen states. It has that, it's a Schengen visa. It means that once you're in one, from Italy, you can cross to Germany, from Germany, Norway, from Norway to, you're just there. Because they have gotten to that level of the European Union. You get it? The only challenge is probably the currency, but whereby also, that was only with Britain. Then they had the euro, Britain had the pound. That was the only issue, and no wonder Britain had to exit. Yes. But what am I, like, you must get to a level where you agree. And agreement in terms of the most relevant aspects of development. Now, if we are discussing tourism today, and we think we can promote it as a block, I think that's a fallacy, that's a lie, and I'll tell you. One, we have not gotten to a point of influencing what one would call sovereign policies. Yet we should, the East African Community should
surrender
be able,
some to
it should be
the
able to
community.
influence domestic or sovereign policies, but it doesn't have. You get it? Because if it has not had, and this is where I think we fault the technocrats of the, that they somehow gave.
Should we fault the technocrats or the politicians here who are the key determinants?
I don't think the politicians were the key determinants. It was a draft that was well informed by other stakeholders. But I think every country had its own fears of losing its powers, political powers.
Well, see Tanzania using a snail pace, then you
because
see,
it has its fears.
Then you see Uganda very fast to it, Kenya very skeptical there as it's taking in.
Because if you look at some of the projects that were agreed on the spectrum of the East African community, would be projects like the Standard Gauge Railway. And up till today, it is only Kenya which is. But they had agreed to fast track this. There was agreement to fast track issues of common market. But most recent, you saw the issue of the maize. You've been battling the issue of fish. You saw the milk issue. You get the point. We have ever had the free movement of member state citizens. But you saw what happened with Rwanda and Uganda. A very bitter face-off. To the point that one of the leaders comes out and says, you don't have to be in this country if you have nothing to do there. What do you want there? And no one is discussing that at that level. You know? So, not until, you see, these all are perfectly good, but not until we are able to confront the bitter truths that come with the integration. You know, we have been discussing, for example, about the issue of the airway. Imagine, I don't know how many fleets aeroplanes Rwanda has, probably 2 or 5 or whatever. Tanzania has as well. Kenya has a number of them. I think in East Africa it has the most. Uganda now also has about 6, is it?
6 for Bombardiers, then the 2 Airbuses.
Imagine if we had an East African Airways. Imagine. Instead of having Uganda, Rwanda, and we had East African Airways. And then you could start discussing tourism with such a venture. You had the East African Railways, and you had a railway line that runs from, let's say, Mombasa, Kenya, Kampala, crosses over to Rwanda, a connection.
The entire region.
Then you can start discussing regional tourism. But what do you have for regional tourism? What have you put in place?
They're just looking
when
at...
we are still even fighting over gorillas, Uganda, Rwanda, Congo. That kind of argument.
What this package entails, you've asked what have you put in place, is to ensure first and foremost that it makes it affordable for the people in the East African community by removing these barriers of a person who is living in Uganda for Kenya to be taken as an international tourist. Of course, hotel, that will mean all costs going to these tourism sites, you'll have to pay expensively because you'll be seen as an international tourist. So this time in Tembea Nyumbani, what they're looking at, let's have those flat rates as long as you're from the East African community. If what a Ugandan is paying to access these sites in these hotels, a Kenyan should when they come in.
Do you know why hotels or hospitality institutions charge in those kind of denominations of international and local personalities? It is because one of the reasons is that there is a higher standard of expectation or in terms of work or service given to the
foreigner.
And also, on top of that, the belief is that they have more money.
You've come to spend.
Exactly. But also, keeping in mind that we have economies that are free. That is the challenge, as they suggest that what control does the East African community have on local economies? Do they have any control?
Definitely no.
So what is the use of such a statement?
Not even the state has control over them. If I built my hotel,
because that's the thing. Because
it is my principle for me, this is how I'll charge you either.
Now, unless there are incentives that come from the community, that is as good as lip service. And this is what the problem we are going to have in all sectors, by the way. In all sectors. That's why when Uganda is exploring its oil, it will do a deal with Tanzania. The two of them. But shouldn't that be an East African discussion? An East African discussion, because it has an effect. If we are looking at, let's say, oil prices, Robert, where is for example, now, where is the East African community in that discussion? It was first in Kenya, people were almost striking, now in Uganda, I don't know, probably, right? But where is that discussion? Where do we regulate matters together? The only thing that you hear these guys talk about, the ERSAT, they are fighting for speakership, Manyanga Secretary General. Tanzania is taking our place, we will not allow. But the issue of fuel, because these things work directly into the presence and availability of such. Because if you talk about tourism, you cannot fail to talk about communication, infrastructure development. What's the road network like? Because people may be even more interested to drive from Nairobi to Kampala than to fly.
Actually, when you look at Kenya, I was reading about the earnings of Kenya, and it was very funny that second of the visitors they receive in Kenya happen to be Ugandans, away from the international visitors outside East Africa. And that means that we contribute so much. But come back home here in Uganda, you find that domestic tourism is doing very funny. We are not at it there yet. Yet for us, we get more from foreigners. Just our neighbors, we are doing more of their revenues.
But you should ask yourself why. Why? I think that's a question that
Ugandans are touring more tourism sites in Kenya, in Nairobi, Masai Mara, and all that they are doing here in Uganda.
Have you been, I don't know, with due respect, have you been to Nairobi?
Yes.
Have you been to Masai Land?
Very beautiful. Very attractive.
If you've been to some of these places, you'll know why people go there. I went to a place called, is it something Castle? I remember the name. But man, you'll be like you're out of this country. If you go to Kenyan sites, go to their hotels, the order, the care, the attention to detail, the timekeeping. Come to some of our places. I know not all of them. Of course, some have.
Our hospitality industry has still issues.
It has challenges, but
that's why when we are seeing
Kenyans very fast,
are coming in and they are dominating most of these big hotels. When you go, you find managers, Kenyans keep.
Well, I think for the last 10, we are doing fairly okay, because we have invested greatly in training, hospitality personnel, and that's a good one. We are trying to focus on that area. Previously, it was very bad. All places, as you said, Kenya. But I think for us, we have tried too. We have tried. So far, so good. We are getting there.
Contribute a lot of funds to renovate one of the training centers that is in Jinja.
But even the other schools, I know MOBS is doing hospitality. The YCI or YMCA is tremendously doing a good job. At least it churns out over 500 or 1,000 every year in terms of degree and diploma. We are in many other schools. So we have tried now to appreciate previously industry. But this all informs the level of growth, the level of growth of an industry. Now, what are other countries doing that we are not doing? One, infrastructure. Infrastructure. You have traveled around the sites of this country. Which site do you say that for me this is outstanding? Any person coming in Uganda, I have to take them there. Be honest. That you're proud of as Uganda. And let's be serious. You're proud, you say, Fetui Nachino. Away from leave the gorilla tracking and what. But in terms of infrastructure.
Just begin with the source of the Nile. I went there when I was in primary. We went to visit. It is the same source of the Nile today. Go to the likes of CP Falls.
There's not. So that's what I'm saying, that you don't blame, when you talk about these numbers going down, people mostly come here, by the way, because of sites that are probably or be reserved by individuals. People will come here to, and that's why you find most of the tourists in hotels in Kampala. Yet they shouldn't. When Kirabo puts up a very nice place, say in Jinja, next to the river, people will come to visit an individual site. But how much input have we put in preservation? Last time we had a discussion, why don't we have about regional zoos? What have we added to these places, the wildlife education centers?
Which was
what have we added
to do regional,
to attract?
These
yes. Things of planning, everything has been planned for how long? You know, we need implementation.
There's so much
Look
paperwork.
at the sites, Robert. How many sites in this country can be preserved? You went to the Mabere Ganyinamwiru. Now, actually, I think it's a privately owned place, from what I know. Privately owned. Go to the Crater Lakes in Fort Portal. How have we taken advantage of them? It is again private.
Accessibility, security in terms
that
of
is it. Because of the privatization of most of these places, you go to this place where there are hot springs.
Chitagata.
Did you see? Do you know how it looks like? It's dilapidated. Like,
in terms of COVID, it is a risk venture.
That's the thing.
At this time.
Now, you don't discuss issues of opening up when you have not discussed the nitty-gritties. You know? What is the contribution of the East African community on local tourism? Does it have a contribution? Does it have a budget? So, not until you can find a point of relationship, then you can't talk about growing the East African tourism from that point of the East African community. We must bitterly look into the issues of finding the relationship. Is it one of the issues on agenda? If the institution or the community is not charismatic enough to discuss issues of closing borders, then don't discuss issues of tourism. If you're not charismatic enough to fast track open spaces for movement, if today you'll be made line up, a Ugandan is lining up at the border of Kenya for over 3 hours to enter Kenya, that already, let's start going for tourism. It's already a put off. So, this is a good idea from the Secretary General and the team. We believe it is needed as early as yesterday. However, let's take the same courage to discuss other circumstantial aids to the issue of tourism. East Africa alone can be the heart of tourism in Africa, by the way. Because Uganda alone, you can look at the bird species here.
You have 10% of the world's bird species.
11 actually.
Here in Uganda.
And in Africa it is over 50.
Over 50.
Now,
then you come
as I'm telling you, in terms of birds alone,
we can
East Africa
so
can be the only destination for bird sites, bird touring. But what have we done?
The climbing lions.
Talk about the mountains. You have over 70 mountains in East Africa. You have in Uganda the Rwenzori, the Muhabura, the Nsibinyo, the Elgons. Go to Kenya, the Mount Kenyans.
So there's so much ability, like Felix has rightly put it.
Is it one of the focused or purposed agendas for the community?
Well, so much ability that East Africa has, but how best can we address the solid bottlenecks like free movement of people? How can we address proper infrastructure, development of these sites to ensure that as we move for the Tembea Nyumbani campaign that aims at ensuring that at least we have 4 million tourists, that is interregional, before Christmas, beginning with the 1st of December. There are some other challenges that we must address as a country. However, I want to applaud all tourism bodies in this country that are coming up with tailor-made packages for people in these regions. Of late, we have seen so many companies, so many agents coming up with tailor-made packages, and we've seen so many Ugandans joining and touring Uganda. No country in the world has developed tourism when they entirely depend on foreigners. It is us to develop our tourism industry in Uganda. Move around, save some few coins, know of these packages, and let's embrace tourism because of the greatness it has proved over time that it contributes to our economy. When we return, we'll be looking at what is trending in the print media. Keep it with us on UBC TV.
Raising Voices.
I feel happy when my father spends time with me. I hope all fathers will like my father. I want my father to reach out to all fathers. He knows how important it is to be a good father. I promise to help my father inspire other fathers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising Voices.
Introducing Learn from
home data bundles. Customized bundles for you and your family to study or work seamlessly from the comfort of your home. Use any of these affordable data bundles to connect to your MiFis, routers, laptops, tablets, and smartphones while avoiding unwanted internet exposure and ensuring undivided attention during online classes. Enjoy instant access to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and selected educational websites. Dial *175# to buy your Learn from Home bundle today. Airtel, the smartphone network. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the festive season and we love it. And that means it's time to celebrate with GoTV.
Come with me.
So get your GoCoder and GoTV value for 25,000 shillings to watch with the whole family. And if you're feeling extra festive, upgrade to our best package yet, GoTV Super.
Something to look forward to.
Download the My GoTV app for more information.
Super.
We all deserve a super festive season. And with GoTV, there's every reason to love it.
Raising voices.
I feel happy when my father spends time with me. I hope all fathers will like my father. I want my father to reach out to all fathers. He knows how important it is to be a good father. I promise to help my father inspire other fathers to change.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Kickstarting your morning with relevant information. That is a major mandate every weekday. So make it a date with us to be an informed person as we usher you into the day. Right from the hour of 6:30, we are here and it's all about relevant information to see you throughout the day. It's right about time. Now we look at some of the stories in the dailies. In case you've not yet accessed the papers, here is a glimpse of what you will find when you later on find time for that. I have the new vision. That is new COVID-19 strain throws the world into panic. Ugandans urged to vaccinate, observe standard operating procedures as well. That is the new strain. Then Museveni, Suluhu agree on key development projects. And also beauty and health, why strokes hit more men than women. The new vision gives you a hint on that. But also Pakasa, we look at Esther Njagala's business was unlocked by the lockdown. So it was a painful joy for her there. Then tourism has no space in Islam. Tourism has no space in Islam. That is the tutor head of Islamic, Prince Kasim Nachibingi, has said tourism has no place in Islam and that whoever thinks so is missing the point. Still, we look at HIV as we gear up to 1st December, World AIDS Day. Women who drink alcohol hit worst. Okay. And Uganda Airlines probes staff, that is the management of Uganda Airlines, will today meet to decide the fate of its staff following an incident which a passenger sowed grasshoppers on the carrier's Dubai-bound plane last week. This made a lot of headlines. But still looking at the new vision, there are over 600 jobs and tenders for you there. Never know, this could be your breakthrough when you get a glimpse at some of them. Yes, Felix.
In the Daily Monitor, government stuck with new school curriculum and of course 5 die in Chengwegwa accident. Now oil is here for another 40 years, says Museveni, and doctors to call off strike before Wednesday. And still in the same papers, early detection helped Chaze beat prostate cancer. Now on Senene vending, a board plane leaves a bitter taste. Now still in the papers, 200 police chiefs kept in acting posts for 5 years, and Uganda ranked 3rd best in tobacco regulation. Now for in the archive, a photo of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, the late, of course, and His Excellency the President, greeting the Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi the 4th. Today in history, Uganda Arab Bank signed Pact 1978, and doctor gets 4 years sentence for medical Jackson's death.
Getting back to the new vision, we begin with the COVID-19 tracker. New confirmed cases 48, positivity rate 0.8%, new death, that is 1, total death 3,252. And once again, go get that jab. We need to fight death as a result of COVID-19, and vaccination will do us good in that area, but also maintain the SOPs, because vaccination does not mean that you can't contract COVID-19. So standard operating procedures is something you should maintain. Back to facts about HIV/AIDS. How do I avoid drug resistance on ARTs? That is a question there, and the expert answers. Today in history, it was on this date, but the year 1973, when the commissioner warned country chiefs, that is the district commissioner of East Buganda, Solomon Jubili, warned all country chiefs to stop communicating with his office in Luganda. He said he would not entertain correspondences from Luganda because English was the official language. Still on the same date, but the year 1991, political reforms talk opened. That is South Africa's political reform talks between the white and the blacks began.
Now in sports, Pirates failed to rob Cobs of 7 joy, and Mobidu tossed to first title. Now Chinyai has last laugh at Uganda Open, and Silverback recover to beat Cape Verde. All hail for Chinyai, and composure lifts Mobiru. But also KCCA make the most of easy fixture to stay top, but Silverback recover to defeat Cape Verde in World Cup push.
And in the new Vision Sports this morning, we look at, that is Joshua Chiptegei left with Vision MD. Don Wanyama here is the promises he makes, count on me. Well, count on me for more medals, assuring Uganda. And they give you, that is the 6th of the 8th part series of Kapchora, the home where we've seen athletes in this country come from.
Now in the Daily Nation, quest for third force are threatened by squambles there. We see Ruto's hidden. Well, of course, Raila tells of DP Ruto to freebies space, and Ruto's hidden hand in Oka chief fallout. Much of that is still in the papers. Get yourself copies of the dailies and be able to tell what's trending in the black and white. But of course, also we'll be having a bit of traffic tips or motor tips for some of you who use the road. But for some of you who drive cars, keep knowing that you must learn to use 3 mirrors in your car. One is a driving mirror, which is just before you or in front of your car. And when do you use it? It's basically to help you see behind, directly behind the driver. But also we have side mirrors, the one on your left and the one on your right. Be keen to look at all those mirrors, at least in a span of about 30 seconds. 30 seconds to know what's besides you and probably behind you, purposes of safety and keeping good driving for the road. Well, of course, much of that we'll be getting, again, traffic tips, and we expect that Priscilla will be back here to give you what is on the road and how you get yourself to Kampala. But now we want to take a look at the long-awaited for weather, climate and environment with Molen Kenyana.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for those updates. Well, we want to go ahead and take a look at what is happening in the world of nature, weather and climate. We will start with the first red alert that has been issued by the Canada Environment, and this is going to British Columbia for what is likely to be a very dangerous weather system hitting the province. Now, this picture that is shown on the screen has been attributed to this red alert, and this has been given out by CNN. This is looking at most of the wide area within the province of British Columbia likely to be hit by a dangerous weather system. Now, this is likely to provoke more rivers. That means that that will be environmentally affecting the area in terms of our atmospheric concerns within the British Columbia area. Now, we will keep ahead of this red alert, and we do expect Environment Canada to actually continue and give more information about this red alert, but we will be giving you those updates as we continue to look at our weather and nature every morning here.
Now, more on that, we also did see more that is coming in terms of the earthquake that did hit Peru, and that was yesterday. And we also saw most of the rocks that were dumped into the road, and that was hindering transportation. Now, this earthquake is to the magnitude of 7.5 across the area. Now, this was really strong around that area, and I think the good news is that at least with these rocks being on their making, they are quite strong, and we didn't have a lot of damage from this area. But a 7.5 magnitude earthquake is really strong. And also we did see the president of Peru, that is President Pedro, taking it to Twitter and writing that he is concerned about the people of Peru, and he will be sending in a lot of support. He did say he has ministries and agencies on alert for the likely support that people in the area will actually need. More pictures still coming in from most of the roads that were affected from the 7.5 earthquake magnitude that is across Peru. But also, I think this year has really been hit most when it comes to effects of earthquakes, and we did see mostly Spain and now Peru. We did have one in Italy where there was also more a likelihood of lava, especially for that mountain that still had earthquakes, but with the volcanic eruption that triggered more earthquakes across Haiti, and that is specifically where we've had more reports of earthquakes for this year. But yes, we are still wrapping up most of the analysis for 2021, and we'll be giving you updates on how much we have covered in terms of the volcanic eruption and most of the earthquakes that have been triggered by the volcanic eruption. But the one in Peru just came from the earth effects, and we're still yet to get to the reason why we did have an earthquake for this particular area of Peru. Well, this morning we want to come back home here and take a look at what is happening over our skies, and that is a look at our satellites that is covering the whole of East Africa, Africa as well, but we'll focus more on Uganda. Now, this is depicting most of the weather systems that we did start off with this morning. We did have a little bit of rains coming in from Lake Victoria, where you see the deep blue colors. That is the rainy system that did start off this morning. Now, that was dumping mostly rains towards areas of Kampala and also parts of Wakiso, but those rains cleared at least as we headed into 6 a.m. there. But we do still have those clouds that are still developing over the area, and much of this system moving towards the western side of Lake Victoria. That means we'll be having more rains also covering this part of Masaka, Rengo. That area can look out for more rains as the morning progresses. But it also looks like we did start off with mostly cloudy conditions across much of Uganda, where you see the white colors. Those are the cloudy conditions that we even still have right now as we speak, because the satellite is picking real-time data of what is happening over Uganda, and where you see quite clear to gray colors, that is the area that is just having direct sunlight, and that takes in areas of Karamoja, parts of central northern Uganda where we have Gulu, coming close to Kitgum, Padel. That area is still having mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, but also for eastern Uganda, where you see the quite gray colors, those are open skies, meaning that we do have sunlight coming in. And it seems like especially the clouds that are developing are still moving westwards, so that might pave a clear day and a sunny morning across the Karamoja region, also for eastern Uganda. But not to relax for most areas across much of the country. You can see we do have also that blue system that is starting to develop across southwestern Uganda, and that means we do have rains in the forecast. That is for southwestern part of the area, Mbarara, Boshenyi. Also, that system will be moving closer to areas of Fort Porter, and that could be dumping in rains this morning, but at least not to a bigger scale as we speak for now. But take a look at the Kabale Highlands here, still all covered with cloudy conditions, and that area can also look out for rainy conditions. We do expect those clouds to develop more and bring in more precipitation over that area. But looking at the eastern part of Lake Victoria, this is where we have Tororo, where we have Jinja. Now that area is already having cloudy conditions, but we do expect that there will be a little bit of rains, especially for areas closer to the lake. But most of the areas away from the lake can expect to maintain sunny intervals. That means that might also clear into sunny intervals later in the evening. But for now, that is most likely looking at cloudy conditions. Now, I'm keeping my eyes on this system that is still over Lake Victoria, and that is also likely to continue into the afternoon. That means this might be the same system bringing in rains, especially towards areas of Masaka, Sembabule, where we could be looking at rainy conditions even later in the day. But for now, it is still mostly a chilly morning, and I think much of that has to do with the cloudiness that has almost covered the whole of Uganda, and that has brought our temperatures a little bit down. So you might also need to quite wake up with, if you're headed outside, have a little bit of heavier clothes, because it is really cold outside, especially for areas around the Lake Victoria and also for mountainous areas of Kabale. Also southwestern Uganda is quite cold for this time of the year. Actually, it's usually cold, but also much to do with the rains that are expected there this morning. We'll go ahead and take a look at our forecast for this morning, and we look at different areas that are likely to have a clear day, or even in terms of wet weather activities. We will start off with the central part of Lake Victoria, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We are forecasting isolated rains. Most of those did start off earlier in the morning, but we are seeing at least most of them are clearing, but also still a chilly morning at 23 degrees centigrade, and we could be warming up to the mid-20s later in the afternoon. Now we continue with the central part of northern Uganda, where we have Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel, where we're forecasting sunny intervals, looking at starting off with a warm morning at 28, but also that area is most likely to have a little bit of rains later in the afternoon. Now we look at the eastern part of, that is eastern Uganda, central Uganda. We look at Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We are forecasting sunny intervals, starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade, but also that area is likely to have rains later in the afternoon. Now look at Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria, Kumi and eastern Uganda. That means you're looking at mostly isolated showers. Those are already coming in, but will be over a few areas. So most chances are a lot of areas within that forecast area might not see the rains, but also starting off with a cool 26. Now we look at the eastern parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, forecasted to also start off with a little bit of rains. Like I said earlier, those will be to the areas closer to the lake, and also starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, but they will clear as the day progresses for sunny intervals. Now we look at Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, mostly across the Algon Highlands. We are forecasting a little bit of rains, and those are already developing over that area. Also starting off with a cool 25 degrees centigrade. That area might expect also rainy conditions later in the afternoon, but that will be over a few places. Now southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we have Shema in that category. We are forecasting light rains. Those will be across also several places, starting off with a cool 26 degrees centigrade, and we do expect that system to clear later as the day progresses. Well, we look at the western part of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule, Rakai. We did start off with a little bit of rains, and those are still there, and also in our forecast for several places within that forecast area, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade, quite chilly actually for that area, and we do expect those rains to continue into the afternoon. So if you are going to be around this area, you might also need to have your umbrella handy, or even have some of those warm clothing, because the rain system is likely to continue into the afternoon, and that might get into your day and mess up things. But we're lucky that at least the system that started off within the nation's capital, Kampala, is starting to clear mostly into sunny intervals for most areas. Even as we speak, at least there is a little bit of sun, but it is still chilly, so you might need to take that into consideration. Well, that is it from the world of weather. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through looking at the NSSF bill. And when we talk about NSSF, I know everyone who is party to NSSF is thinking about okay, what is happening to my money now? But yes, Robert will be here to take us through the bill and how far the amendments have gone. But also later, we'll be looking at sports. Ruben will be here, the tallest man who believes he's the tallest among us here. But yes, he will be here to take you through sports. And we'll be back here tomorrow, same time. Do make it a point to wake up with us. My name is Molin Kenyana. I want to wish you a good morning.
The program lineup on UBC. Brought to you by Roofings, Strength of a Nation. You by introducing the all-new Roofings TMX 500C rebars with cut and bend services. Roofings, strength of a